So I've been working with this family who lives in Brooklyn, and they want to move to Cape Coral. And they just want to rent for a little bit while they're trying to figure out where they want to live and what type of home they want to buy. So I send them a list of homes, and the wife calls me the next day and she goes, Kirstin, I found the perfect house, but here's the catch. They don't work with real estate agents, and he just fired his property manager. So it's just gonna be the guy who owns the home. He's the one that's gonna be renting it. I'm like, okay. At this point, I don't know how I can help if they don't work with real estate agents. So I just ask her, how can I help you then? She goes, well, I just wanna make sure that I'm not entering into a scam. So I go, okay, well, when you talk to the guy, did he tell you his name? And she said, yeah, he did. She tells me his name. I get onto Lipa and type in the address just to see if that matches up the names. And it did, but that doesn't mean that it's not a scam because it's also public knowledge. And I told her, I said, just make sure that you're not doing anything, you're not giving any money until we're certain, okay? Like, just kind of cover your tracks, let me know if you have any other questions. About 7 o'clock rolls around. I'm heading out the door to go to dinner. And she calls me and she goes, I'm so sorry to bother you again. So remember that guy that we were talking about, the one who's selling his house or renting his house himself? He sent me an email, and I just want to read it to you to make sure that there's not anything weird going on. And I'm like, okay. She's like, do you mind if I read it to you? No. So she reads me this email, and there were a few things that stood out to me. First of all, he said, please take care of our home. Please, please, please take care of our home. I'm trusting you to take care of our home. He said that like 3 different times within this email, which just, to me, was a red flag. He used just certain language that was like just semi-off, but I didn't want to tell her, yes, confirmed, this is a scam, because if it isn't, it was a really good deal. So I didn't want to, there's that fine line of trying to help her, but also not ruining a good deal for her. I go, have you talked to him on the phone? Like, have you heard his voice? And she's like, no. And I kind of thought that was weird. I'm like, okay, well, number one, I would say trust your gut, because if it feels weird, then your gut is always right. And then I said, I do think it's a good idea to maybe just give him a call. 1, see if he answers, and 2, just kind of feel him out for yourself, because you can kind of get a better sense of who somebody is when you're hearing their voice and you're talking to them. So she goes, I hate to ask this, but would you mind staying on the phone with me while I call him? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I seriously felt like we were in high school when you're calling your crush and then your friend's listening on the other line. She calls him up and he answers, and she's like, hi, I just want to know if I can meet you first, and before we give you the money, because the email had said, I've already pre-approved you, you can move in as soon as possible, I just need a deposit, and then I'll mail you the keys because I'm out of town, which I thought was also a red flag, because if you're out of town, well, why would you take the keys? Because you're on vacation. Why would you think to take the keys? That's just my opinion. But again, maybe some people are weird, I don't know. And then the other thing was, he also owned like 14 properties. I was able to see that. So I'm like, is he renting all these properties out himself, and he took all 14 keys on vacation? Like, something felt off. Something felt wrong. So we're on the phone. She's asking to see if he could meet her. He's saying, no, I'm out of town, I can't. She's like, well, is there a friend of yours we could meet? Just somebody that we can just get a feel for each other first. He goes, yeah, no, if you just send me the deposit. And she's like, well, I would just really feel better if, and he's like, okay, just send me half the deposit. He's really pushing this deposit. I'm like, I'm not sitting here on the phone thinking, okay, this is 100% a scam at this point. I text her, I go, hey, ask him how long he's owned this property, because that's something that I could see, and it's public knowledge, but it's kind of like whenever you are using like a fake ID and they ask you what your birthday is. And she goes, hey, so how long have you owned this property? He goes, oh, a very, very long time. She goes, like 5 years or like 20 years? He's like, yeah, 20 years, something over 20 years. And she's like, okay. At that point, I'm like, hang up the phone. He's only owned this property for 7 years. This red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, one after another. I'm like, girl, get out. This is not it. Anyways, long story short, she was just so grateful that I was able to help her out of a scam, because this is all of her money. They're trying to move here from Brooklyn. She has a whole family. When you're renting, you have to put down first, last, and deposit. So that's a big chunk of money. So if she would have given him this, they're out like 10 grand or something like that. She was just very thankful that I was able to help her, and I'm glad I was able to help her as well, because I also have moved here from Missouri. So I know how it is. I know how it's hard to trust people, and scams are getting worse and worse. So it's just really a good idea to work with a real estate agent, have somebody on your side that you can trust, that will answer the phone, spend time helping you and your family. And we just made a great connection, and I'm so glad I was able to help them.